Hi everyone, my name is Stefan Weiser and I'm sitting here at the Abbey Road Institute Berlin in our production room number 1 together with Kenny Larkin. Thank you for having you here at our wonderful institute and thank you for taking the time for a short interview for our YouTube channel.
It's an honor for me.
Now, for probably the younger generation listeners or viewers, would you mind just quickly introducing yourself, where you come from, what type of music you prefer, and
Okay, my name is Kenny Larkin, and I am from Detroit. I do dance music. If you want to get more specific, I do Detroit techno. That's what I'm known for. I've been doing music for roughly 24, 25 years. Dance music, all dance music. And I started in the late 80s, early 90s in Detroit. Grew up around this new style of dance music that was coming out of the city at the time, which was techno. And I met a guy named Richie Houghton, an unknown guy named Richie Houghton, and started DJing in the clubs in downtown Detroit, and eventually kind of fell into the whole scene of dance music, and started doing music. Me and Richie decided that we also wanted to record and do music, electronic music. And so Richie started a label, and I put out a record, my first record on his label in 1990, 91 or whatever, and kind of took off from there. So fast forward 20-something years, and the guys from Detroit, including myself, are still traveling all over the globe, playing what we consider good dance music.
talking about those 20 years being in the creative industry, there are heads that usually leave their style, go somewhere else. Like, for example, David Bowie and Madonna are very good examples. They reinvent themselves. You stay true to your genre.
Yeah.
Although reinventing and still being very important for the whole style. What is your trick? Are there any?
Oh, wow. For me,
Any secrets?
some people, there's two camps. There's the camp that sits down and figures out their path or their road to wherever they want to be, or they reinvent themselves over the years. And then there's the other camp, which I fall into, which is, for me, it's a more organic thing. Like, it's not really me sitting down and going, okay, I have to reinvent myself. And it also depends on your perspective of music and what do you consider good music and how you do the music and how you record the music. So because I'm really more old school and I'm talking about in the confines of dance music, because people go, why you have to be so serious about dance music? Why does it have to take all this thought about what you want to do when you record dance music? Well, because I care about music. I grew up listening to music, being influenced by jazz and R&B and the electronic stuff, Kraftwerk and all these bands back in the 80s. So for me it's just too hard for me to try to change my thing like 20-something years into it. Like what you see is what you get. It's cool that David Bowie and all those guys used to be able to reinvent themselves, but they're on a different scale. Like, this is dance music, but I do care about it because there's not too many people that are in this genre of music that care about it as much as others like myself. I care about the music, and there's a lot of crappy sounding dance music that sounds the same, and so I think it falls on us even more that we make good dance music. And that it's subjective. What's good dance music? Well, it's what you put time and effort into, and you really sit there and you try to make something special, which sometimes means a lot of people won't get it. It goes over their heads, but at least you did your part, and then you leave it up to the people that are listening to, say whether or not they like it.
This brings me to the next question regarding your workflow. Now, you started in a period of time where, especially electronic music, was just purely analogly created.
Yeah.
And then you did the transition.
Yeah.
Now, 20 years later, what is the gear you still prefer to have analog?
Oh yeah.
Or where are definitely plugins doing the trick as well? Where could you now, just out of your experience, you know?
Well, yeah. So like you said, I started with a few pieces, like we all did, like two keyboards and a drum machine and a cheap mixer, and but the cool thing is that like, it's those little setups that you get the best sound out of. It's simple and it's not standing in the way of inspiration and creativity, and you just get it done. It's always the simple stuff that usually works. But as technology marches on, time marches on, things get reinvented, and then they started coming out with all these plugins and everything started going into the box, into the computer, and everybody slowly started relying on the computer for everything. And I never really liked that idea because, you know, I was always afraid about computers crashing and what happens if, you know, I'm doing all my music on the computer and it crashes and I'm completely out of luck. I won't be able to do the music. So as time progressed, I've collected pieces over the years that I won't sell, like my outboard compressors, the LA2A, 1176, blah, blah, blah. I've compiled a lot of gear, but yeah, I did make the transition inside the computer and I wasn't happy. I didn't like it. It's a different workflow. It's a different mentality when you're sitting there, you know, drawing with a mouse or trying to turn a knob on a plug-in synthesizer with the, it's just a different feel, or there is no feel, to be honest. I had a digital mixer and you know, that was hooked up digitally and all these ones and zeros were just, that was my music, ones and zeros. And then I finally said, you know what, I got to get back out of the box because my love for making music, for the process of making music was lost when I went in the box. So I came back out of the box and started to slowly collect pieces that made me excited to make music again. And so I decided to get another console and all these new keyboards that are coming out, like the Prophet 6 and the Oberheim OB6, and all these manufacturers are now realizing, or maybe these people making music, maybe they were saying to these manufacturers, why don't you make keyboards again, da, da, da. And I think that's what was the case with Dave. I know Dave Smith had a lot of people asking him, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? And it was people wanting to be able to touch their music again, keys and stuff. So I'm at the front of the line, like yelling at the top of my lungs, yeah, do that, because that's what part of the fun of making music is like having this relationship in the studio and being able to sit in there all night and you wrap yourself around your gear and you create this bond with this stuff, and it's a magical thing that's hard to duplicate when you have a laptop and a trackpad. But I do use a few plugins. It's minimum right now because it's better for me to be working with gear now. But yeah, I have Native Instruments plugins and a few other things, but I really have a love for analog gear. It's just, yeah.
Talking about your hands-on approach, have you been still working with tape? A producer or a musician who still is doing cuts on the tape?
No, I'm not that old school.
Could you tell us a little more about your workflow when it comes to
I never actually used tape. Well, okay. This is not really the same, but I had ADATs. Ooh, ADATs. That's not really the same as like having a 2-inch or 1-inch tape and doing the edits and stuff. Back in the day, Derek May used to do that. That's how they started. He used to like record a little track on his floor in his loft and take the reel-to-reel machine down to a club and actually play, well, do the edits, like really rough edits, and then take that machine down to the club and play the track in the club for the first time off reel-to-reel. It was magic. But no, that you know, I came in right on the tail end of that part of, well, that's not really the tail end, because it was still prominent. I just never got into recording to tape. So right. I would just, I mean, that was out. So, I mean, yeah, I would just record to that, you know, yeah.
So may we imagine you being in the studio more like, okay, I'm rehearsing, and once I have everything in my head, I know how to play it, then I push the record button.
No. no.
Then how would this final take then?
That's the thing. Like, for me, art is like because music is art, and the process of creating this art, like, I'd rather leave it to the gods, to the universe, and just, if you're in the zone and you find the zone, you let it take you wherever it takes you. So to try to put it in a box and to try to say, okay, this is my formula. The kick is first, the snare is. Now, I've never been like that. So I don't know, if I have a keyboard in front of me and I'm going through the presets, doodling around, and I find something that's something that I like, then I would proceed to like maybe record that. But this is like back in the day, and it was old school, where you had the old school hardware sequencers. Today it's different. Actually, there's one thing that's cool about Ableton Live, is that it allows me to kind of record a whole bunch of clips one after the other and not have to worry about technology getting in the way of inspiration. But yeah, so to say I start from A and go A, B, C, D, E, no, it's A, G, blah, blah, blah. So wherever I need to go, that's where I go. And it's not a conscious thing. It's just something that you kind of, you figure out without having to figure it out. Okay, me. Other people, they could sit there and you know, maybe they use the analytical side more and kind of approach it more from a theory base or from a engineering base and standpoint and do it that way. But no, I'm always been a feel guy, and like when I do mix downs back in the day, it was live, organic. Just do 10. If you got to do 10 passes to get it right, do 10. And that was back in the day. And even today, I still do the same thing. I don't do any automation curve, nothing like that. I put it up on the desk. I set the levels. Once I'm finished and writing everything and getting all the effects and stuff set, and then I just do passes, and then I find one, and then boom, I go with it, and then I might do an edit to it. So that's as organic as it can get, and I have the capabilities to be more analytical and overproduce my stuff, but I tend to not want to do that.
Talking about this mood, when you're really in the mood for making music, creating music. Is there any ritual, any things you like to do to get you into this mood? You know, when you come from the outside world, you're stressed. Yeah. Is there any ritual you have?
I need to be. Because I'm not a musician. I'm not a trained musician. I don't feel I wouldn't be able to somebody to bring a keyboard in here and I start banging it out and taking it to the bridge. Bang! I've never been like that. So I'm really squirrely when it comes to writing around people. So I need to be by myself typically, and I usually work best at night when the world's asleep and I find a zone. Okay, so I can see daylight. So I would need to be in a room. If I were to work during the day, I would need to be in a room where I couldn't see the outside. Especially me living in LA, it's sunny every day. The palm trees are swaying. It's like I don't do any music right now. But now I just got a studio last week because I bought this 1608, and it's downtown LA, and it's dark. I don't know what hour it is, so I can go in there anytime or during the day or night, and it'll be the same mood, and I can set the mood and then kind of go from there. So. Yeah, and typically, like, you know, I listen to things that inspire me, music that inspires me. Like, my stuff is more jazzy, a little bit jazzy. So I listen to a lot of jazz. I don't listen to a lot of music today that's on the radio today. I don't even listen to that stuff. I kind of go back. I skip like 2 generations or whatever and go back to the old school stuff to kind of keep my brain on more music, melodic stuff, as opposed to the stuff that's really today, which is not really melodic based to me.
Now, let's skip to the actual generation of growing up music makers.
Yeah.
Talking about techno first, how would you, when it comes to an educational way of thinking about music, the role of techno or of the DJ culture itself, how big you would say this role is in the music that surrounds us today in the music industry? Just the culture, just the techniques, just the styles. Would you say it's playing a big role, like the music we listen to in the radio?
Are you saying techno, or are you talking about dance music? Because
I don't want to use the word electronic dance music
or EDM. Like, okay,
yeah, but it's definitely like out of the DJ culture. There is a difference to band playing.
5 years ago, 5 years ago when it wasn't huge in the States, it was hard for me to. It was hard for me to see any kind of dance music in the States to go big because it's been 20 something years and it's never gotten to. And then this EDM went over to the States and it blew up and it's now so massive and there's so much money behind it. I read some article that there's billions of dollars in this, billions with a B. So if you don't think there's a lot of money in this and if you don't think it's relevant, you are lying to yourself. So the DJ culture is huge. Everybody wants to be a DJ now. Everybody. It doesn't matter what country you're in. Everybody's DJing now. Everybody wants to do dance music now. So yeah, it's massive. You can't deny it. Is it all good? Hell no. Most of it's shit. But our stuff, the techno that's it's okay. I come from a more soulful side of techno. It's so rare that you can find some good soulful stuff compared to the more mechanical and rigid trancey stuff. I don't know. I don't know where it's gonna go. I don't know what. I mean, it's already big. It can't get any bigger. This EDM stuff. Mm-hmm. It's already they're starting. Actually, there was a big company that just filed for bankruptcy. They used to own Beatport. They bought up all these festivals and everything and Beatport and everything, and they just filed for bankruptcy like a few months ago in the States. So I think it's hit its peak because this guy who bought all these companies, production companies and promoting companies doing all these festivals, he just bought up everything. And some of these festivals started failing in the States, and that was the tipping point. So now I think it's going back down, and they're paying these guys so much money to do selling out these massive festivals. And these kids don't really care about the music. They're all high on drugs and stuff, and they just there for the big light show and everything. So the love for the actual music itself, they don't put a lot of time and energy into that. Well, that's subjective, right? I mean, you can say I love EDM, and then I can be like, yeah, I hate it. But the stuff that I love, it's rare to hear that kind of stuff. So,
talking about education and music education, what out of your career, what would you have loved to better have learned in school than by try and error in real life?
Well, that's a tricky question. You know why? Because whatever got me here because of the lack of whatever. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like anybody could kind of, we call it Monday morning quarterback. Like, okay, I wish I could have did this. I wish I could have did that. Do I wish I had more theory behind me? Maybe, but it might change what I sound like. Can you imagine like a classically trained jazz guy trying to do dance music? It'd probably sound funny or weird or whatever. So, if anything, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having stronger production techniques, learning to do better parallel compressing and all this kind of stuff. That's on the production side. But as far as on the musical side, I guess a little music theory wouldn't hurt, but it is what it is. I mean, I don't consider myself a musician. I consider myself an artist. So whatever the hell that is, So I mean, I don't think I missed anything. I wouldn't mind going to school. I actually thought about going to school years ago, audio engineering school, but it didn't happen.
What classes would you definitely would have looked for in first place? If you would now try to go back to school again, which one would be like the class or the curriculum you really look forward in first place?
Audio production.
Audio production.
Yeah. And I mean, I would really like to use more features in Ableton. Learn how to use more features in Ableton, because who has time to learn all this stuff? Have all this gear, and you're like, my attention span is like 10 minutes. Then you get the next piece of gear, and you're like, it's hard to focus on all this gear. That's one of the other things. You get lost in this loop of buying all this gear, and you're going, okay, I need that one more piece of gear so I can get back to work. And you get on this gear, you start trying to focus and learn this piece of gear, and then here comes something else that you buy. That's how I've been doing it. And I think that gets in the way of creativity too, because like I said, back in the day, we had 2 pieces of gear or 3 pieces, and you got along fine. Well, you can't do that now. Like, no, you got to buy everything inside just because you can, and you sit around and you twiddling your thumbs, going, "Okay, I got all this gear now. What am I going to do with it?" So, audio production would be cool to learn how to really get the maximum.
Like sound engineering wise, you say.
Sound engineering, just straight up.
And how did you then gain that knowledge? Just out on the streets?
Years of trial and error. You just buy the gear and you see what sounds good and see what doesn't. You're like, and like I've even gone so far as to record something and not even have not record it properly, and then it be mastered and released, and it sounds like shit in the club, but it was. I'm for an example, I did a remix for Kevin Saunderson, an Inner City remix a few years ago, on a track called Future, and it sounds horrible. Like there's all this muddy, deep sub bass. I didn't hear it because I was mixing in my headphones, so I didn't hear all this sub bass in the track. And I gave it to Kevin. I said, "Here's the track," and they played it on the big system, and I finally heard it. I was like, "Dude, I got to record that." He was like, "No, do not go back and re-record this. Just leave it how it is." And the track was amazing. It blew up, and it was like number 1, and blah blah blah. So sometimes you can kind of get away with poor audio recording techniques, but yeah, I prefer to have a good, clean knowledge of what I'm doing and good techniques, and be able to like really maximize my.
Back in your youth days, would you have rather preferred to go into the school, or to definitely go hands-on just on the streets?
Both. Why not both? Yeah. You guys offer that, right? That's how you guys teach. You do academic and hands-on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hands-on here is.
That'd be awesome. Who wouldn't like that? That'd be amazing.
Perfect. If you right now. You saw our students. If you were to teach here in our institute, be a teacher, like for a year, for 2, for 3,
what would it be?
If you could choose, like music theory, I would definitely now love, or acoustics, or composition, or synthesizers. What would be like? What would you choose to teach?
Wow, what would be my class? Inspiration 101. Teaching how to get inspiration from other music. I mean, we're all inspired by previous music. Everybody's influenced by previous. Yeah, everybody. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be it could be anybody. They're all inspired by I think that's one of the things that's missing out of dance music, is that you have this somewhere it stopped where people stopped listening to the more musical dance music, and they just started listening to like just hard drums, and that's all they think about, and then that's all they do when they go into a studio. It's just, okay, it's got to be hard and boom, 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 and there's nothing melodic about it. There's no music, there's no harmonies, there's nothing in it. So I would hopefully like expose these, teach them that it's important that you go back and learn the history of music and listening to different genres, and perhaps like taking a little bit from this genre and taking some from that, and then combining them together, and then coming up with your own sound. I think that's really important. Sometimes that's even more important than like the production side of it, is to come up with some music that's worth recording. Because you could, it's crazy how many songs that I can go to Beatport or any website online that sells dance music, and I can go through 100 songs, and there'd be not one track that I could play because they all sound the same, or there's nothing to it. So yeah, I think I would prefer to kind of help them open up their, the blinders are like, let them open them up a little bit and teach them, not history, but I guess you can call it history, music history, I guess. Yeah.
How much in this whole creating process is then improvisation playing an important role for you?
That's improvisation is everything for me. That's how I make music. Like I said, I'm jazz. My influences are all jazz related, and you hear it in my music. Like the last 3 or 4 remixes, you hear some funky chord or Rhodes being played. That's what I come from. Even though with my limited knowledge of knowing how to play and everything, that's how I stand apart from all the other guys that are doing dance music.
Then coming from like a jazzy background, how then did you decide to get in touch not with the piano but with the sequencer?
But it's the influences that I heard growing up as a kid in high school, being influenced by this DJ in Detroit called Mojo, who played a lot of different. Everybody knows who Mojo is. He played a lot of different styles of music in this one show that he did every night. It was he played a lot of Kraftwerk. He played a lot of George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic. He played a lot of Prince. He played all these different things together in this one show, and he exposed all these kids, these black kids in Detroit, to music that they would never in a million years hear if it wasn't for him. So this guy, and he knows now. He knows how much he was an influence in opening up and kind of like paving the way for all these kids from Detroit like me and Derek and Carl and Kevin and Stacy and Underground, all those guys from Detroit. We got our education from this guy. And so to answer your question, yeah, I took whatever I was listening to and combined it with the drum machine and synthesizer, because we heard synthesizers on his show when he was playing Kraftwerk or Gary Newman or any other electronic group that wasn't dance music. It was electronic music. I don't know what they called Kraftwerk at the time. It was electronic, but what was it called? I don't know what it was called, but that's what he played. So that's how we I call it this music stew, where you had all these different styles in this one pot. You stir it all together and you got this cool gumbo. And you come out with your version of dance music, and that's how it happened. So without that, like, we wouldn't sound the way that we do if we didn't have those influences that this guy exposed us to.
And to end this interview, would you mind giving one last advice for our students that now you said you had this just few pieces of gear that you went really deep into.
Yeah.
Now our students here at school, like, they have all the Universal Audio plugins.
And
a bunch of more of plugins. Like, they start not only with one piece of gear, but plug-in wise with like 100 pieces of gear. What is your advice for those new young spirits that grow into?
Well, I think it's amazing that they're at this facility that has this crazy history to it, and you have all these pieces of gear that all these legends in the past they touched and they used and stuff. So to be in that environment and be able to use the same gear is amazing. Learn it. Learn your craft. That's the advice. Take advantage of it. like what? That's. I think that's the best thing, is to say, don't waste the time. Use it well and learn it. Learn it, because it's all we have is to kind of keep it going, the music going, and to keep the art of recording going. You got to learn a trade so you can kind of teach it to people down the road and kind of keep the music alive. I sound like an old jazz dude. Keep the music alive.
Thank you for taking your time.
Okay.
That was a wonderful sentence to close the interview, I think.
Keep music alive.
Keep music alive.
Miles Davis said that before. He said, keep music alive.
So let's keep the music alive. Thank you for watching.